Okay, let's talk about the economic rescue package. And we're pumping hundreds of billions of dollars into the economy so that we can free up credit for people. And one of the ways of doing it is very controversial, and that is the government buying shares in banks, and separately, government buying shares in banks or buying up those mortgage-based investment vehicles that we've been talking about. And people are saying, listen, you know, that's not the role of government getting into private enterprise, especially getting into an equity share of a private bank. Let me ask you, Cliff, first of all, how do you feel about that?
Well, I think both senators voted for this, and I think both senators were not happy to vote for this. I don't think anybody was happy to vote for that. It was an unfortunate situation. I think there were a lot of causes that led to that. I do think that one of the things that Senator Obama really pushed in those discussions was the idea that you just can't have a kind of an open checkbook to the banks. And while we would prefer not to have equity interest as a sort of a theoretical concept, it would be better to have the taxpayers have some equity and some protection to get money back rather than simply giving the money out. And I think he stood for that, and I think he improved Paulson's original plan by insisting on that.
What do you think, Glenn?
Well, I think I don't think there's a huge amount of difference between the two on this particular point. Senator McCain has been very clear about saying that he wants the government to be in this in as short-term a way as possible. And he's also been very adamant about the idea of guaranteeing people's individual savings accounts. And I think he thinks that's a key thing, is that people feel at risk. People feel that their savings accounts, all their hard-earned money may be at risk in this kind of panic. And I think he's been very reassuring in saying the government should step in and raise the FDIC insurance limit from $100,000 to $250,000, which is in the bill. And then he's actually proposing that all savings be guaranteed for a period of time.
Yeah. I know this doesn't have anything to do with the campaign, but I'm curious to know how you personally feel about the government getting involved in the way they're getting involved with these equity shares and the like. You know, you're an entrepreneur. You don't like government interference or even government activity unless it's absolutely necessary. How do you feel about that?
Well, I personally oppose the bailout plan. I think that even the fact that there's been a lot of questions on both sides of the aisle of how to save, how to step in and rescue, it has highlighted the fact that the government is confused right now.
So what would be the best policy, do you think?
I think that if the government stepped in and provided incentives for people to buy homes, incentives for the market to work, that would be a better suggestion. Then instead of trying to buy banks, help the banks directly, just help the system directly by giving perhaps tax breaks for people who want to go get mortgages now, or people who want to go buy a home now. There should be perhaps a tax credit or a lower tax rate for the next year if you put money down on the house, or maybe you get a tax credit for the amount of money you put down on the house. Incent individual people to be involved in the housing market. I think that would help.
Do you want to weigh in on that?
Well, I do want to weigh in, and I think it raised a really significant question as to what John McCain was thinking about this, because at one of the recent debates, he came up with this idea that we've got to have part of that $700 billion devoted to covering the difference between the mortgage and the current value of the house so that people can stay in the house. And if you think about it, I think that's a very dangerous proposition. That means that somebody in California who maybe has a mortgage at $600,000 and a house is worth $400,000, that now the government is going to keep that person in here. That's almost like keeping the Enron stock at $60 when it was really only worth $10. So Senator McCain announced that, and I think that's a dangerous proposition. I do think having the banks feel that they can loan money to one another and having some guarantees, which is what the G8 was looking at, is important. And I also think the notion of trying to help people and deferring foreclosures. And I think the best solution might be that when people's mortgages have adjusted, and again, this is a position that Senator Obama has said, when they were at a 0% mortgage but it then adjusted to 12%, maybe we can get that readjusted at an appropriate level.
Well, I think that's the same. That kind of approach, though, readjusting mortgage rates, is the same as subsidizing a mortgage. And if Senator Obama is supporting that, that's just another government subsidy. But I think that
the readjustment. No, let me be clear. The readjustment with the bank and the individual, because the bank loses if that house is foreclosed too. So that was not the government subsidy.
Okay, but that's the government forcing the bank to readjust a mortgage, which is.
But that's not a government payment. It would really be in line with that. So.
But it would be the government forcing the bank to take a loss.
Well, I mean, we have this enormous crisis. I guess one of the fundamental differences that we have, you know, the government comes in and has to bail out because we have had such a lack of regulation over the years that we've now had a tremendous problem with secondary markets and derivatives. And then when we get in there, then people are saying, well, the government should hands off. For instance, one of the things the Democrats insisted on was, we're not going to go in and bail you out and have corporate executives going out with $30 million. That was not in the original Paulson plan, and the Democrats insisted on.
I'll tell you what, we want to take a break. I think we pretty much exhausted that. We don't want to let other topics suffer. So when we come back, we want to talk about foreign policy, health care, and a variety of other issues, too. When we return, stay where you are.